Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unrestricted Flavor. I'm your host, Mark Dirksing, and today we are going to put together some pizza dough. Living gluten-free, and those of you that live gluten-free as well know how expensive it can be. So I'm always looking for a way to save money while also increasing flavor. So I found my favorite gluten-free brand, King Arthur, makes this bag full of pizza dough or flour, and essentially I'm going to teach you how to put that together. The other thing that I do is I like to add a couple of my own ingredients to spice up the flavor, so I'll be adding that as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that we are going to add to our bowl, our mixing bowl, is 2 1/3 cups of the King Arthur gluten-free pizza flour. Then we will add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. We're going to add 1 tablespoon of sugar. One 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast. Ends up being just about a package of the Fleischmann's active dry yeast. And then we're going to add some lukewarm water. So we need to get 1 1/4 cups of lukewarm water. While I get that, we're going to add our other ingredients, and these are my ingredients just to spice up the flavor. But we are going to add 1/2 teaspoon of ground black pepper, a tablespoon of oregano, and a tablespoon of dry chives. Then we're going to add our 1 1/4 cup of lukewarm water. And now we're going to get our hands a little dirty. We're going to mix this around to make our dough. And it is going to be sticky. We just want to make sure that we get all of that flour mixed together into our dough. And once it is, we are going to cover it. Well, first we'll kind of shape it into a little bit of a ball as best we can. And try and get some of it off our fingers. All right, and once we have our dough made, we are going to cover it with, and I just use a kitchen towel, clean kitchen towel, and cover it for an hour to let it rise. Then after that hour, we'll put it in the fridge for another half an hour. So we just take a towel, we're going to cover it. Set our timer for 1 hour. And we'll check on it in just a few minutes, in an hour. All right, the hour is up. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at it, see if it has risen, and it has. So now we're gonna cover it and put it in the refrigerator for a half an hour. And that will make it easier to handle. I'll be right back. All right, I got the dough out of the fridge, and now we're going to take a look at it. There we go. And so why do we put it in the fridge? It's basically to make it easier to handle. And so what we need to do is I have a cloth here. I'm going to take some gluten-free flour and kind of spread it out on my cloth so the dough doesn't stick to the cloth. And so I'm actually going to just use half. So this recipe calls for 2 pizzas. I'm going to use half of this dough for 1 pizza crust, and the other half I am going to use for another video in which I make cheese stuffed breadsticks. So we have our ball of dough. We're going to put it on our cloth, and we are just going to press it out until it's your desired thickness. And you can make it any shape you want. Pizzas don't have to necessarily be round. And there we have it. So what we'll do now is I would put this in the oven. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven, and we're going to pre-bake it at 350 for 10 minutes. All right, we're going to take a baking pan or a baking sheet, just spray it with some olive oil cooking spray. And we're going to move our pizza crust onto our baking sheet. And like I said, we're going to put this in the oven at 350 for 10 minutes. All right, our crust is out of the oven, and now we are going to go ahead and put our pizza together. So I'm going to use some of my roasted red pepper marinara sauce. Spread that out. And then once you have your sauce on the pizza, you can just add your favorite toppings. I'm going to use some of my Italian chicken that I have made a video for already. We'll just sprinkle some of that on. We've got a variety of sweet peppers. Those on, and then I'm going to top it with some lactose free and gluten-free provolone. All right, we're going to go ahead and take this, put it back in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes at 350. And if you want, you can turn up the heat to about 450, get that crust extra crispy, but just do less time, make sure you're checking on it. And I'll be right back. Welcome back. All right, pizza is done. I wish you could smell it. There we are. Delicious pizza. Now, there are crusts out there that are pre-made that are gluten-free, and they are convenient, but I definitely wouldn't say that they taste great. So what I love about this recipe for the pizza crust is that it tastes normal. It tastes like regular food that we remember eating before we got sick. So this is our pizza for today. Stay tuned for our next video where I make cheese stuffed breadsticks. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Mark Dirksing. Let's start feeling better together. Let's start feeling better together.